Hello, good evening. It is, well, long since full time at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal 1, Sheffield United 1. Bit of an interesting game, this one, really. I think I was in the ground behind the goal we were attacking the second half, the one that Pepe went over, hoping for a penalty. And it's funny, I came out the ground and I thought, wow, not a great performance from Arsenal. I sort of made a draw kind of fair enough, really. And all my replies were suddenly, what about the penalty? What about the penalty? And I was sort of racking my brains, thinking, like, what do they mean? And the mad thing is, in the ground, and I don't think I was alone in thinking this, I was sat behind that goal. As Pepe went over, it looked like he'd kind of flung himself, really, into two guys looking for a penalty. And because the VAR decision was so quick, because the deliberation was so brief, we all assumed, well, it must have been what it looked. It must have been just clearly not a penalty. Now, obviously, watching it back, I think the decision is much more debatable. I know a lot of people think there's no debate whatsoever. I mean, you would expect that to be given as a penalty. I do think he's absolutely looking for it, but that doesn't really change the fact that it is a foul. But it's weird, within the ground, there just wasn't any anger about that, because you don't see a replay. The speed of the decision just made us go, oh, well, must have been pretty clear cut. So it's weird, that kind of affects your perception of the game, the degree to which you feel an injustice has occurred. When Sheffield United got their equaliser, I was kind of like, well, we didn't create a lot today, but I suppose we did create a penalty that we didn't get, that we should have had. I found this a bit of a tricky performance, I must say. It wasn't my favourite performance of the Mikel Arteta reign thus far. I found Torreira to be very isolated in midfield. Xhaka was dropping very deep, I suppose, to support Xhaka and to be the instigator in those passing moves, which he has been doing, but he seemed to sort of almost get stuck in that first phase more so, and we couldn't progress beyond it. I thought Sheffield United were very well organised. They were better defensively than they were going forward. Their own manager, Chris Wilder, was unhappy with some of their passing. But they blocked off passing lanes. They made it difficult for us to advance. Mesut Ozil wasn't in the game particularly. I felt we struggled, particularly in the first half, to get the likes of Martinelli and Pepe into the game. Although, of course, we did get the goal from Martinelli. Good work from Saka too on the overlap. In the second half, we were better, and Ozil was better. We had more final third possession, but didn't do an enormous amount with it nonetheless, and didn't create many notable chances. Lacazette wasn't massively in the game, although he did work hard. And I thought the decision that we had to bring him off, I understand that, given that he's our only senior striker, we want to protect him. We've brought Eddie Nketiah back into the fold, give him a run out, but I just thought by the end of the match we had sort of Saka, Martinelli, Nketiah on the field, Maitland-Niles. The manager was trying to decide who should come on out of Willock and Guendouzi. He kept changing his mind. He thought, well, we're choosing between a 19 and a 20-year-old. I just felt there was a bit of a lack of experience out there, and maybe that played its part in Sheffield United getting that equaliser. And once they had it, I didn't ever feel like it was a realistic prospect that we'd go on and win it, because the players that we had that were attacking threats, Pepe, Ozil, they were players who you would kind of expect to be tiring at that point in the game, and they looked to be tiring at that point in the game. So it's another draw for Arsenal. Liverpool might emulate the Invincibles by going unbeaten, but we've already emulated them by having 12 draws in our season. We are not winning enough games. Even with the improvements Arteta's making, we're not winning enough games. But we were playing a very stubborn Sheffield United side, and one who I think had done their homework defensively and didn't make it easy for us. When you think about the goal we scored against Palace, that was David Luiz playing a pass between the lines from deep. And neither Xhaka or Luiz could do that today. I think some of that is on the forwards. Their movement wasn't as good as it could be, but Sheffield United just blocked off those lanes, and they were happy for us to have the ball in certain areas, but they didn't enable us to go front to back in that quick way that destabilises a team and creates overloads. As for the VAR, I don't believe it's a conspiracy. Incredibly, Mike Dean was the referee, and I wouldn't fancy him to give it in our favour, but with VAR there as well, you'd think it would happen, but yeah, frustrating, especially given that, you know, we've conceded plenty of penalties like that. You think of Wilfried Zaha at the Emirates Stadium earlier this season. It's one of those. I think he's looking for it. I think it's a foul. I don't get so stressed out about the ones that players are looking for because they're kind of inherently a bit cynical, and so, you know, they don't sort of upset me as much as they do others. But I suppose the main reason I feel like that today is I don't, in all good faith, in all good conscience, believe we really did enough to win it. I'm not saying Sheffield United did. I don't think we made the most of the periods we dominated, and I don't think we dominated enough. You may see it otherwise. I don't know. Big game now against Chelsea on Tuesday, and I can't help but feel that this was quite testing, you know, that the players will be quite fatigued from this, and we've lost Nelson to injury now. Yeah, big game coming up. I'll speak to you then.